Thanks for joining us on the program. I am Omini Odan. When COVID-19 was discovered in Wuhan, China in 2020, it spread rapidly, sending shockwaves around the world. Now, the index case in Nigeria was confirmed on the February 27, 2020, making it the first case in sub-Saharan Africa. Consequently, the federal government swung into action, rolling out measures to ensure the outbreaks contained and quickly managed as efforts for a vaccine intensified around the world. As at 18 February, a year later, at least 7 vaccines have been developed as a critical tool in the battle against COVID-19, and it is largely encouraging the upshot of a variety of vaccines with scientific proof to face off the global pandemic. Now, just last week, Nigeria joined the rest of the world as it recorded another feat in its effort to curtail the pandemic and bring the figures down with receipt of 4 million doses of Astrogenic Oxford vaccine manufactured by Serum Institute of India, while the vaccination has begun, starting with frontline health workers. For federal government officials, in demonstration of the leadership commitment to contain the virus from spreading further, President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo symbolically took the jab on Saturday as confirmation to the safety and efficacy of the vaccine. While there are high hopes with this development that it will bring a turnaround, as more than 150,000 Nigerians are reported to have been infected with the virus and reported a reported death of over 1,800. The goal is to vaccinate about 40% of the population before the end of the year. So, what are the measures in place to expand the figures? What are the issues with storage facilities? What is the narrative and awareness in terms of attitude of Nigerians to the vaccine and vaccination? What is the update regarding online registration for vaccination? This will form an integral part of our discussion tonight. But first, the backgrounder by Abubakar Usman Akwanga.
The world index case of COVID-19 recorded in Wuhan, China put most countries on their toes, and the declaration of the virus as a pandemic in March 2020 made it a health emergency crisis, which prompted interventions from governments and global health institutions. An effort to sustain research for the discovery of vaccines to boost human immune system against the pandemic top global concern, with Nigeria also doing a bit. The delivery of more than 3 million AstraZeneca vaccines to Nigeria brought a huge relief in the battle to defeat the pandemic.
These vaccines are safe, they are very effective and efficacious, and that I would urge at the time of vaccination and deployment, if you fall into the category that will be vaccinated, make yourself available.
As a symbolic demonstration of the safety and efficacy of the vaccines, President Muhammadu Buhari and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo publicly took their vaccines jab after Dr. Cyprian Nkong became the first Nigeria to be vaccinated alongside some of his medical colleagues at the National Hospital Abuja.
The vaccine offers hope for a safe country free of coronavirus. I urge all state governments, traditional and religious leaders to take the lead in the mobilization effort within their environment and spheres of influence. I similarly urge all eligible Nigerians to present themselves and be vaccinated in accordance with the order of priority already mapped out at the various authorized designated centers.
States have started receiving delivery of different quantities of the vaccines for vaccination of the most vulnerable population, with emphasis to compliance with non-pharmaceutical measures. The target, which is to ensure the vaccination of about 70% of Nigerians before 2022, and other issues relating to that, are the focus on Tuesday Live tonight. Abubakar Usman Akwanga.
COVID-19 vaccine administration in Nigeria is the focus of the program. It's Tuesday Live, and at some point, our phone lines will be displayed on the screen. If we are true to you in the course of the program, please turn down the volume of your television set before making your input, and please go straight to the point and be polite in your presentation. Also tonight, you can be part of the conversation through our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA. Also, during the program, we shall be doing some reports across the country. Today we'll be doing about 7 reports across the country. We'll be doing Lagos, Kano, Port Harcourt, Jos, Maiduguri, Benin, and Ibadan. Tonight I'm being joined in Abuja via Zoom, United States of America, for the program, beginning with the Executive Director, National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Faisal Shuaib. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Also tonight, joining us via Zoom is the Director General, National Agency for the Control of Food, Drug and Administration, NAFDAC, Dr. Modishola Adeyeye. Good to see you on the program.
Good evening. Thank you.
President, CEO, Innovative Biotech, Nigeria, United States Chair, Africa COVID-19 Manufacturing Initiative, and Chairman, Vaccine Production Subgroup, ECOWAS, Vaccinologist, Maryland, United States. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
Thank you for having me.
Professor Martin Emeje, Drug Delivery in Nanomedicine, National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
It's a pleasure to
And neurotoxicologist and founder, CEO, In-Country Medicare, Dr. John Tor Agbidie, is also a member of the Committee of Experts of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, Federal Minister of Health. Welcome to Tuesday Live.
My pleasure.
Let's begin the program. Well, Dr. Faisal, we know by the minutes, by the seconds, developments happen. I'm sure from where you were to the point you got to the studio, there would have been updates regarding the vaccine administration in the country. Can we have an update from the flag off on Saturday up to now?
Well, one thing that is common all through the country is the news that we've started the vaccination process from the launch a couple of days ago. And there's a palpable sense of relief across the country, because we now are taking determined steps towards flattening the COVID-19 pandemic's curve, but also we're adding another tool to the array of interventions that we have around against COVID-19. And for us at the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, it's really a unique moment, because in the last 1 year, we've done so much to try and contain the virus. But the advent of this vaccine really is a huge leap towards making sure that we're able to protect Nigerians while maintaining the non-pharmaceutical interventions. In the last couple of days, following the symbolic vaccination by Mr. President and the Vice President, we've also at the Presidential Task Force taken the vaccination publicly, again to emphasize that these vaccines are safe and they are effective. We've been able to roll out the deployment of the vaccines to the states. As of earlier today, up to 20 states had collected their vaccines, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to complete the process of transporting the vaccines to the remaining states. And we've been able to really continue to monitor the process of this deployment. But I think one thing that brings a lot of good cheer to us is the fact that all the people who have taken the vaccine so far, starting from the demonstration at the National Hospital. Mr. President and Mr. Vice President are doing very well, and that is the report we're receiving.
Are you inclusive?
Absolutely, yes. And it really gives us great pleasure to know that, these vaccines are clearly safe, and all of those conspiracy theories that if people take it, they become paralyzed, or if people take the vaccine, they pass out, absolutely untrue. And this is, like they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Well, we know that you are one of those who took the vaccine, but one concern we are concerned about tonight is when the vaccines arrive in the States, is the environment set and ready to domicile them?
Yes, we've been working with the states, and we've developed a dashboard that clearly gives criteria that must be met by the states before they get the vaccines. And even when they get the vaccines at the sub-state level, so at the LGA level, that monitoring will also continue. The guidance that we've provided to the states is if any local government has not met those criteria, then they should not be sent the vaccine. So criteria such as a functional cold chain system, making sure that the health workers have been trained, that social mobilization activities have started, that there's proper engagement of communities to make sure that they are demanded for the vaccine, or that there are adequate measures in place to provide enough education and information about the vaccines. Those are some of the criteria that we're monitoring, and I know that the states are also working very hard to make sure that all of the cold chain equipment that are available are brought, up to speed. So some of the cold chain equipment, for example, that require additional repairs have been repaired. And for a lot of the areas in the rural areas, one of the advantages of the Astrogenic vaccine is that it requires +2 to +8. And we have those cold chain equipment that we call the solar direct drive. Those refrigerators are available in up to 7,000 out of approximately 9,000 political wards. So in every political ward, our target is to have that type of equipment in every political ward. But we've been able to install only 7,000 so far. The process of actually installing the additional 2,000 is ongoing. And by our projection, we should be able to finish that installation process by the end of this year. Again, we're working very closely with our donors and development partners together. Now, because those cold chain equipment use solar energy, then we're not as worried about the lack of electricity in a lot of rural areas, because they use solar energy and they're able to keep the vaccines at that temperature. So the next few weeks will be very, very critical in terms of how we bring all of our operational experiences from the polio eradication program into rolling out the COVID-19 vaccine successfully. And we're really, really excited about what that presents.
So what is in place right now, we are sure from the point of delivery to the location it will arrive finally, the efficacy is assured?
Yes, assured.
Okay, let's quickly go to the DG NAFDAC, because they played a major role in the vaccine arriving in Nigeria. DG NAFDAC, well, can you just update Nigerians what played out behind the scene before the vaccine were formally rolled out in the country?
For having me, a lot was done before the vaccine arrived and started about April of 2020, because as a regulatory agency, we have to work with other regulatory agencies across the world through ICMRA, is International Coalition of Medicine Regulatory Authorities. Nigeria is the only African country in that group. So we started the training around April of last year to understand the disease and to understand the development of the vaccines. And we were having training with WHO, other regulatory agencies, manufacturers. So we started getting ready despite the lockdown. We had to develop our own guidance for preparedness to get the vaccines. Again, NAFDAC is the first regulatory agency in Africa to have a guidance on the preparedness. And that is a result of the months prior to the fourth quarter of last year that we've been getting ready for that. And then when the first vaccine was approved by FDA, Pfizer, BioNTech, we were expectant in the sense that we will get the dossier. The dossier is the Bible of product development, from preclinical to phase 3 clinical trials, everything in between. It became a problem for us to get the dossier. And that is a sad part of this story, because as a regulatory agency, it is the manufacturers that run after regulatory agencies, not the other way around. But let's take it the way it was. We started running after AstraZeneca. I made a call to Nairobi, Kenya, the African representative there. He did a great job and contacted the Serum Institute. We had a couple of meetings before we were able to get the dossier. Africa is made up of 55 countries. We cannot be treated as a bloc. We were treated as a bloc, and as a professional, that is not acceptable. But granted, what has happened, we got the dossier on February 10, but because a more matured regulatory agency like FDA, like UK, MHRA, and EU have approved the dossier, we use what is called reliance, meaning we've pre-studied their own assessment report weeks before we got the dossier, so that we are mentally ready in terms of what we will need to be looking for in the dossier, and comments, feedback that we need to give to the company. So we got it on February 10, the dossier, and then we had 5 days. My committee, the vaccine committee, had 5 working days to review. And we granted the emergency use authorization February 18. And emergency use authorization means rather that this is not a full licensure. Studies are still being done, or observations are still being made. And for a regulatory agency, you have these phases 1, 2, 3 that you look for in the dossier, but there is what is called the phase 4 of pharmacovigilance. All over the country, almost daily, we exchange information. Now that NAFDAC Nigeria has gotten our vaccines, we have joined the companies, but for about 2 months now, we were waiting and watching. But other regulatory agencies have been exchanging information about side effects, adverse drug reactions from the vaccines. And there is nothing scary. It is part of drug product development. Because in phase 3, you talk of thousands. When millions are using the same product in phase 4, there are some side effects or adverse drug reactions that you might not have run into in phase 3. And that is why it is important to record the side effects, the adverse drug reactions, because all of us handle medicines differently. Some people say, oh, they have sore arm, some have fever. One of our friends in the US that took the second dose, not even of AstraZeneca, got a big hit because the body is responding to the development of the immune system to protect the subject. So there is no medicine you take, especially vaccine, that doesn't have side effects. If it's the simplest is, oh, the tenderness of my arm or whatever. So it is extremely important that we encourage people to record. And that is why we have what is called the Med Safety app. It is an app that WHO and MHRA facilitated for NAFDAC to get. It was launched in October or early November last year. And we have deployed it all over. It is free. Up to 50 million people, 60 million can download it free. You can get it on Google, or if it is iPhone, you get it on Apple Store to record side effects, because that is the only way we're going to give full approval.
Let's hold you there. I'll come back to you for other perspectives. While we go to Dr. Simon Agwale, joining us from Maryland, United States of America. If he's up now, Doctor, I remember when we discussed second wave of COVID-19. If Dr. Agwale is up, we take him. If he's not up, then we take Dr. Agwale up. Dr. Agwale, when we discussed the second variant in Nigeria, you were worried, but now the vaccines are in Nigeria, and by the projection, 70% of the population will be covered from now to 2022. How will it be achieved, by your expert's opinion?
Thank you very much for having me. Let's look, first of all, let's look at the characteristics of the vaccine that is being used in Nigeria now. I spent the whole of yesterday and today trying to address some of the issues that some top Nigerians raised, and people were concerned about taking the vaccine. One of the key issue that was raised was that Nigeria is importing an inferior vaccine. When you have a more superior vaccine, that is being used in the US and then Europe and so on. Now, I have to address that. This is important because it was brought to our attention by several Nigerians. The key thing that we need to know basically is that none of the approved COVID-19 vaccine is inferior. Now, if you are talking about the Pfizer, the Moderna vaccine, which is based on mRNA technology, you cannot, based on the orders that have already been made, have those products in Nigeria right now. This is apart from the temperature, considerations and so on. So let's talk about the vaccine that is being used in Nigeria right now, which is the Oxford. It's called Oxford because the product was originally developed by Oxford University, and then they partner with Astrogenic so that the product can be commercialized. Now, know that AstraZeneca decided and they announced that they will not make profit during the pandemic. So if you're not going to make profit during the pandemic, it means that you're going to sell your product at cost. So that is the reason why the AstraZeneca vaccine is cheaper than all the other vaccines. It's not that it is an inferior product. We have to get that. Now, let's look at the statistics. Now, the Pfizer, the Moderna, AstraZeneca vaccines were not conducted based on head-on clinical trials. It's different. They were conducted at different population, different times. So when you see 62%, 95% doesn't mean that this product is more superior than this. That's not the issue because they were not head-to-hand clinical trials. But talking about AstraZeneca vaccine, because that is the product that we're using today, the general efficacy is about 62%. That's generally. But if you take it out, and then you say that what is the efficacy of this vaccine against the original strain? Now you know you have variants that are emerging today. What is the efficacy of Astrogenic vaccine against the original strain? Studies have shown that if you use just the original strain, the efficacy is about 76% against the original strain. Now, if you space the second dose, because the initial trial was done based on, and that is the global standard, based on HPV vaccine and hepatitis B vaccine, that if you give the first dose, you give the second dose 28 days after. But studies have shown that if you give the AstraZeneca vaccines 90 days after, which is 12 weeks, you boost the immune response, the efficacy to about 82%. So one single dose gives you about 76% a protection on the original strain. And if you give the second dose 90 days after, you get about 82%. Now, the reason that South Africa withdrew that vaccine from being implemented in that country was because the clinical trials using that product in South Africa showed that the efficacy was just about 22%. And then analyzing the viruses that had that breakthrough, they found out that those viruses were based on the South African strain. This is common to all the other vaccines. The Pfizer vaccine, Moderna vaccines, they have shown in the lab that there is drastic reduction in protection from the South African strain. So it's not only unique to AstraZeneca, the vaccine, it's true for all the other vaccines. Now, if you look at how vaccines are developed, from the concept to licensure, there are all kinds of oversights that comes into play. If you look at the preclinical data for procedure, for example, where you test the animal, the product in animal and so on, you find out that all the other products, the Pfizer, the Moderna, the AstraZeneca, the Johnson & Johnson, they are all various platforms to deliver what we know works. What works? The spike protein. The spike protein in the COVID-19 virus is what protects against the virus. So if you make antibodies against the spike protein, because the spike protein is what binds to the human cell and then initiates infection. So if you make antibodies against the spike protein, you protect against the COVID-19. So the Johnson & Johnson, the AstraZeneca, they have the same platform, which is adenovirus. Adenovirus, Johnson & Johnson using the human adenovirus, the AstraZeneca uses the monkey virus, to deliver the spike protein. The Pfizer, Moderna, instead of using any of this platform, they just synthesize the spike protein, and then they use the fat, like the PEG, for example, to protect the RNA, so that the RNA is delivered to the cell, and then the cell recognizes that and make proteins against the spike protein, so that you can make antibodies against that. So it's the same product that is being delivered, but using different technologies to develop products. So there's nothing like this is an inferior product. This one is more this, because this is the efficacy, because the clinical trials were not done head to head.
Opening thoughts there. Now we come to Dr. John Tor Agbide, who is joining us in our studios in Abuja. Doctor, can you just maybe educate us immune system preparation for vaccination?
Thank you very much, Omini, for that question. It is very important for us to know, and let me just reference back to what Dr. Faisal had earlier alluded to, where he was telling us that when you're looking at, the concept of, containing any disease and an epidemic for that matter, you look at the non-pharmaceutical interventions, then, the lockdown, and then, the vaccination. The lockdown and non-pharmaceutical interventions actually help in what you said, lowering the curve. The other major aspect, which unfortunately we've not been discussing, publicly enough, is that of the immune system that is the immune system that we build, because it's the body's natural defense against diseases. Even when you talk about vaccine, what are you trying to achieve? Thank God it has not taken us many years as people had hoped or even wondered. We've gotten the vaccines now. But we can also boost our own immune system with or without, the vaccines. The vaccine will only also come in when the immune system is already initiated, and then you have the right environment for the vaccines, to go ahead. That's what you call, that's why you have the primary dose. And then you have the secondary dose or the amnestic boosted, dose. Now, talking about the immune system which our bodies have naturally, it is very important. We know that there are two arms of the immune system. You talk about the innate arm of the immune system, then you talk about the adaptive arm of the immune system. The innate arm of the immune system is the first response to any foreign body infection, including virus, bacteria. It is designed to act very fast and within a limited time. Less than 1 week. You have the active soldiers, which is actually displayed by way of the various, white blood cells. You have, the neutrophils, which are the first group of soldiers that are, deployed, to attack any foreign organism. Then you have the monocytes, which after when they wait for a while and they don't see the neutrophils accomplishing, the job, the monocytes moving. The monocytes would quickly go in and surround the virus or the microorganism. And by that, is able to inject certain, chemicals, which are the cytokines, that will kill that and then finish. If the neutrophils first, the monocyte first, then you have the macrophages. The macrophages are actually monocytes that have actually migrated into the tissue. And when they come in full swing, ballistic, releasing cytokines, chemicals. Key amongst them, like natural killer cells, you have interleukins, then you have tumor necrosis factors, and a group of other cells, including the dendritic cells. They all work together. Meanwhile, the macrophages, when they come in, they prepare and grab the antigen through the antigen-presenting cells. You have the MH class 1 and MH class 2, major histocompatibility cells. it is now presented for what you call cell-mediated immunity. At the point of presentation, there are two arms of the innate immune system. Let's know why this is important. The innate immune system lasts, longer. The innate immune system also has two arms. You have what you call the humoral or the antibody-mediated production. Then you have the T cells mediated. This is why you have the CD4 count and CD8 cells. That is T cytotoxic component. They all work hand in hand. And in COVID-19, for one, it is also now known and believed that the cytotoxic arm of the immune system is even, stronger. But let's see how vaccines work. What we've been made to understand and known over years is the humoral aspect, where you produce, antibodies. In case of COVID-19, for one, or SARS-CoV-2, it produces what you call the immunoglobulin IgG and then IgM. Those are the antibodies that are produced that will now have a neutralizing effect precisely on the spike protein, which Dr. Agwale had emphasized on. If you look at the structure of SARS-CoV-2, or the coronavirus, the spike protein is the most important part, because that is the part that attaches on the receptors on our human cells. That is the ACE2 receptors. So what you get from the neutralizing antibodies, they come and block those receptors so that the spike protein cannot attach and thereby release the RNA virus that goes into the body and start creating viral replication that will cause damage to the disease. So in very simple and logical terms, this is how the immune system works. How efficient the immune system works is dependent on micronutrients. All over the world, we've come to know that key among these micronutrients is vitamin D. Because as I had earlier explained, vitamin D is that substance or chemical that elicits the macrophages, response. The macrophages, the chemicals that I was describing that the macrophages release, those are, the catalycidins and then the beta defensins that they have a chemotactic and chemotoxic, effect that goes to kill. So can you imagine, the macrophages not being stimulated by, vitamin D, they will have less, they cannot perform. So with even the neutrophils. And this is why the emphasis and the need for micronutrients to supplement and improve the function of the immune system cannot be overemphasized. All over the world now, there's one of the greatest doctors in the United States known as Dr. Paul Marik. Marik has developed what you call the MAT protocol that incorporates the use of vitamin D, vitamin C, and there are other micronutrients like zinc inclusive. By the way, zinc inclusive, then you have quercetin, then
Dr. Agwide will hold you there for now. We'll come to you for other perspectives. Now let's go to Professor Martin Emeje. Professor Martin Emeje, I want to put this analogy before you, given the fact that you are coming from the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development, NIPRADE. Developing vaccine against COVID-19 has been a most pressing challenge of our time, and it is said nobody wins the race until everybody wins. Where we are now, what challenge before you institute after now?
Thank you. When you see Nigerians discussing, elucidating, and explaining products developed from other countries, you get wowed. We are experts in discussing about other people's developments. What others have had sleepless nights in their own laboratories to develop. We specialize in reading them and explaining them to the world. In fact, we explain more than those that developed those products. Instead of looking at home, go into our own labs and develop our own products. That is why we remain like this. So when you say, what is the challenge before the institute? It's not what is the challenge before the institute. It's what is the challenge before Nigeria. It's our challenge. It's not a NIPRI challenge. I'm glad in fact, I'm glad we are even using Oxford Astrogenic vaccine. Oxford is a university. Don't we have universities in Nigeria? During COVID, where were the universities? Did we not watch all the universities were closed down during COVID and we did not care? We did not care because we were waiting for universities in other parts of the world to develop the products, then we will buy them and do reception party for the vaccines. So our challenge is straight, and we all know this challenge. Let's not deceive ourselves. We all know this challenge, from the DG NAFDAC to the DG National Primary Healthcare, to the ministers, to the president, to me, all of us, to national self. We all know the challenge. I watched on television today that the Central Bank of Nigeria gave out about 230 million naira for scientists in Nigeria to begin to do research that will take care of COVID-19. I congratulate CBN, because for the first time I heard that they have given out 200 and something million naira for research. But let me tell us that 230 million naira that was given out today is less than $500,000. And I bet you they will soon start running after those scientists, that they should go and bring receipts of what they bought. Instead of asking where is the result, they will be asking them where is the receipt. Then they'll force them to start looking for receipt that this is what we bought. Then we will be satisfied that something has been bought, instead of saying where is the report and what can we do. So the challenge is that we do not have the political will for research and development in this country. It is not top on the agenda. It's not. And any country that does not prioritize research and development is a slave country. It's a country enslaved, because you will sit down and wait for what people will do. You can see people are confused. In fact, unfortunately, even educated people are confused. If you go out there and ask, so many people who are schooled, who are educated, are telling you, they want to kill us with vaccine. I just laugh. They want to kill you and they have not killed you since. Is there any drug we are producing in this country? They want to kill us. They would have killed us since. So forget it. If you just go and take it and die, if you are supposed to die, so if we don't want to have fear, then let's do our own, because we have the resources. When I say resources, the natural resources, natural plant biomass, untapped. We are like a virgin land with all these things available. That when we talk about vaccine, I want people to know, vaccine, there's nothing strange about vaccine. Vaccine is drug. Every vaccine is a drug. Every vaccine is a drug, but not all vaccines are drugs. And let me tell us, let's have a hypothetical human being that has no immune system at all. Then vaccine cannot work in you. Then vaccine will be useless if you have no immune system at all. Therefore, technically, there is vaccine in this country. There's natural vaccine. Go to the villages. We have to be realistic so that we can organize ourselves properly and know how to solve our own problem. American problem is not Nigerian problem. Ghana's problem is not even essentially Nigerian problem. We must look inwards. We have people who are skilled. We have people who are knowledgeable. All we now need is little infrastructure here and there to be put in place. Look, science is universal. The scientists that did the Astrogenic vaccine that we are welcoming everywhere, what they do is what Professor Happy does, is what Professor Tomori does, is what Agwale, who ran away to go and stay. That Dr. Agwale you are zooming from America today was a staff of NIPRID. He was a staff. We were working in the same institute. That is the man zooming from America. And he's a vaccinologist. When he was in NIPRID, he started the vaccine development for HIV. Ask him, why did he run away? So
there at this point, we'll come back to you. You have raised a number of issues. I believe we'll address them. Now, so far, so good. The vaccines are already in the country. What dosage are we expecting? Now you said doses for at least 20% of the country's population. When are we going to achieve that?
So the first 4 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine that were brought in last week are part of a consignment of 16 million doses that we're getting from the COVAX facility. You will recall that the COVAX facility indicated that for all of the 92 countries that are taking part in those arrangements, they will be providing up to 20% of their population. So enough doses to cover 20% of their population. So for Nigeria, assuming a population of 211 thereabouts million, that's around 84 million doses, right? So this first batch is really part of that larger consignment. The plan, of course, is that we will prioritize those people who are in the front line. So the health care workers that are taking care of sick people, they are the ones that are most likely going to come in contact with the virus. So we're prioritizing them. We're also prioritizing the people who work with them, so the support staff, cleaners, and people who manage patients, and then other health workers, and then we go down to other frontline workers such as security, people who run in the security outfits, first responders. So those are the people that we're prioritizing in the first wave in the first phase of the rollout. And
is the media not in the frontline list?
Yes, I've been asked that question a lot. Yes, I mean, the journalists are also in the front line, but of course, one thing that I've said is that we'll get to the journalists as well, but even among people who are in the front line, some are more front line than others, right? So even among equals, like some are more equal than others. So we can imagine that the people who are at the most risk are the ones closest to the patients, so the health workers, and then will come to the frontline journalists. But you can imagine that frontline journalists are likely to be like you know, young adults, and you are less at risk of suffering severely from COVID-19, you know, compared to people who are elderly, right? People who are elderly or have underlying diseases, you know, what we call comorbidities.
Okay. Well, across all the platforms will be coming to you. It's time to take some of our reports. And our first report tonight is coming from Lagos.
It is a known fact that coronavirus pandemic has negatively affected all sectors of the globe and even caused economic meltdown. Nations, including the most developed, are still feeling the intense heat caused by the ravaging virus more than a year that it continues to threaten human existence, turning the world to a war zone where all nations are unanimously fighting the disease with the hope of wiping it away from the surface of the earth. The battle is definitely favoring humanity with the discovery of a vaccine.
So many vaccines have been developed for COVID-19, and they are in various stages of development. We have about 180 that are in the preclinical stage and about 69 in the clinical stage.
Nigeria has now joined the list of countries that have received their share of vaccines, and inoculation has already begun, with some health workers and the nation's leaders taking the lead. This action, to some large extent, has debunked conspiracy theories about the vaccine.
There are stakeholders around logistics of collection of vaccine, storage, distribution, and how we even administer all of that instead of the steering committee.
Lagos residents are optimistic that cold chain and preservation of the vaccine in the state will not be compromised to maintain its efficacy.
It's a very good development. My prayer is that it should produce the desired results.
With vaccination going on around the world, it is hoped that a cure for the infection will be found soon to ensure a world free of the pandemic.
Our next stop tonight on reports is coming from Kano.
Security personnel and frontline health workers are among the first set of people lined up for the COVID-19 vaccination in Kano State. Ahead of commencement, the state government organized a sensitization seminar to educate security personnel about the vaccine, considering the key role they play in the COVID-19 response.
And if you look at the locations where the vaccine has been massively rolled out, Israel, for example, the United Kingdom, mortality has reduced by over 73%.
Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, who thanked stakeholders for their support towards getting the pandemic curve flattened, assured of adequate arrangements to ensure the success of the vaccination exercise. He disclosed that more than 500 centers have been designated for the exercise across the state.
All our facilities are in order. All what it requires for us to start this vaccination is ready and is certified by the national body.
Governor Ganduje also enjoined people to continue to adhere to advisories towards mitigating the spread of the viral disease.
Port Harcourt, Rivers State, is next.
Since Nigeria recorded its first case of COVID-19 a year ago, there is no doubt that there are devastating impacts, both direct and indirect. Given that measures were put in place to contain the virus, the COVID-19 cases were still surging high daily, with over 1,000 lives lost in the country. As the arrival of the COVID-19 vaccine into Nigeria is critical in curbing the pandemic, it has become necessary that stakeholders in the health sector take proactive steps to ensure that the vaccines are safe and available to all.
We have accurate safeguard means or machines in form of storage facilities that can be regulated to capture the temperature of the new vaccine that is designated or prepared against COVID.
Despite the awareness of the risk associated with contacting the virus and the number of lives lost, some Nigerians in Port Harcourt are still skeptical about the virus and the efficacy of the vaccines, while others commended government for taking a right step in the right direction.
That they are efficient and they are efficacious and safe for the people, then people can take. If the COVID vaccine comes, I will take it, whether it is real or not.
Medical experts have doused the fears from some quarters regarding the efficacy of the vaccines.
This particular vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, has undergone different stages. Renowned pharmaceutical companies, Astrogenic, Pfizer, came up with it, haven't gone through all, WHO certified it. And it's the same vaccines we have here. We should embrace.
And the last on this segment is coming from Jos.
Prior to the arrival of vaccines, the state government held an intensive training for health personnel on administration, monitoring and evaluation to ensure efficient management.
For us on Plateau, we have gone far. A lot of preparation have been ground. Some health workers have been trained, and we still have some that are still on.
As the state awaits the delivery of vaccines, the state cold rooms and other facilities have been developed to meet the required standard.
We've also sent our team to the various local governments to also be sure that all the cold chain equipment are in order.
Some residents of Jos described the arrival of the vaccines in the country as a welcomed development and applauded the stakeholders for their commitment to the welfare of Nigerians.
Yeah, I think it's a welcome improvement here for us, and then it's coming very fast than we even thought it would come.
I think it's a good idea, and I think I will take it since it's the only way out. Without taking it, there won't be another way out. So I will take it because people are taking it, and it's a way to an end.
COVID vaccine is okay if they can use it for the masses and the poor, because not only the big men, because the poor need it very, very well.
If they are taking it, that nothing happen. Me too, I will take it. Because before I say I will not take it, because some they say when they take it, they was dying, some they died. So me, if they take it, they didn't die. Me too, I will take it too.
They called on the citizens to present themselves for the inoculation against the disease.
Those are reports dotting the landscape of Nigeria, and in reacting to them, let's go to Dr. Simon Agwale. Dr. Simon Agwale, if you're on, you have seen the reaction by Nigerians there. What word of reassurance do you have for them? And before you respond, let me add this tweet that has come in from Victor Oyeniran. How safe is the vaccine, taking into consideration that vaccines are meant to be transported in cool vans?
Well, thank you. I have 100% confidence in vaccine development in Nigeria. That's not.
Well, we lost the audio there. I believe if it is restored, we'll go back to Dr. Simon Agwale. Let me parry that question to Professor Martin Emeje. Professor Martin Emeje, you heard the reactions by Nigeria and then the report, and some are saying, if they take, I will take. And I'm saying, what word of reassurance do you have for them so that everybody makes itself available for the vaccines? And quickly, how safe is the vaccine, taking into consideration that vaccines are meant to be transported in cool vans?
Thank you. That vaccines are safe is not in doubt, generally. Science is science. It's not, there are no two ways about it. It's precision. Drug development has a spectrum, has protocol, and is the same. So the process of developing a drug product and gets to regulatory approval, once followed, the outcome that you have, which is the drug product, and in this case, vaccine specifically that we're talking about, is going to be safe, and it is supposed to be efficacious. In other words, it is supposed to do the work for which it has been designed to do. So nobody should be afraid of the product being safe or that it will not work. The truth is, the pharmaceutical industries that got this into the marketplace are not Father Christmas. So even though the regulatory authorities will ensure that you do not take any product that is not safe to the people, the manufacturers themselves are also not going to spend, because it's huge resources, it's capital intensive. I mean, if you listen to the, the Serum Institute in India is not the owner of the Astrogenic Oxford vaccine, but they are the ones manufacturing it. And if you listen to the MD of the company, he said that he had a budget of $800 million to produce the vaccine. There's nobody who is going to invest that kind of money into producing useless things. And nobody is interested in killing anybody. We have to know that. I don't even know where the idea of they are trying to kill us. I don't know how it got into our space. Maybe it's because we should be doing our own. So my encouragement is that, look, just like we get paracetamol, just like we get all the drugs we use in our hospitals, they are all produced, they are all imported, they are from abroad. So anybody in Nigeria who knows he goes to hospital and sees doctor, and doctor gives the person medicine for malaria, for typhoid, and you are drinking it, just take this vaccine too. It's the same thing. It will not kill you. If the malaria drug did not kill you, this one will not kill you.
Too much. Well, quickly before we take our first break, another tweet here coming from Kenny. It says, let me take the question to the CEO of Primary Healthcare Development Agency. It says, since the online registration is expected to make vaccination easier and faster, what are the measures taken to stop fraudsters from hijacking the process?
The introduction of the online registration is actually meant to prevent fraudsters from gaming the system. So we launched a strategy known as the Teach strategy that makes it possible for people to go online, register, give all of their details. But apart from that, when you come to the health facility for the vaccine, there is a process of actually validating that who you say you are online is exactly the person who has come physically to take the vaccination. So there are a number of validation processes that I don't want to go into, so that if people try to game the system, and then we'll be able to catch them. And we've made part of the planning such that every vaccination site, every vaccination team has a security agent attached to it. So if people want to to game the system, or they want to be funny, there's a security agent, around the corner to make sure that doesn't happen. So we're keeping a very close watch on what will be going on in the field, basically because these vaccines are really expensive, and even if you have the resources, you may not be able to get the vaccine on the open market because the demand is high while the supply is low. We're still at a point where pharmaceutical companies are trying to catch up with the demand for the vaccine. So with the vaccines that we've gotten, we have to protect them very, very jealously. And this is the communication that we've shared with the states, that they have to make sure that apart from having functional cold chain systems, that they also they have to enhance the security around their cold stores at the local government level, at the state level as well, so that criminal elements don't try to access these vaccines.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's go to the DG NAFDAC. She's been waiting for some time. DG NAFDAC, I'll take this question straight to you. Just for clarity, Nigerians are asking, this coming from a tweet by David, what COVID-19 vaccine is available in Nigeria? Just for clarification.
The only COVID-19 vaccine that is available in Nigeria is the Astrogenic Oxford vaccine from Serum Institute. Any other vaccine that is said to be available in Nigeria is a fake vaccine, and people should stay away from it.
Okay. At this point, we'll take a break, and when we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us.
The second wave of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic is upon us.
To safeguard lives of our people, the government has signed the Health Protection Regulations, which makes wearing a face mask mandatory in public places.
Wear a mask. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Wash your hands regularly with soap and clean water. and use hand sanitizer.
COVID-19 is real. Do not be infected. Do not spread it. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned, and I will begin this segment with Dr. John Tor Agbide, and if Professor Dr. Agbale is up, we'll go to him. Dr. John Tor Agbide, a tweet here is asking, is a smoker at a higher risk of getting the COVID-19 virus than a non-smoker?
I'd like to answer that question empirically. You know that smoking is one of the risk factors for so many diseases, including, cancer. And we get diseases, including cancer, because the immune system is actually depleted. So definitely, I would say already somebody who is a chronic, smoker, his immune system is compromised. So once challenged with the SARS-CoV-2, virus, his degree or his ability to respond to it is much, much, much weaker. So if you want to get a yes for the answer is yes.
Before I take on you, let's go back to DG NAFDAC. Before the vaccines were allowed into the country, it went through a period of validation. How long did it take? And how quick are we going to get the next batch? How long will it also take to validate it before it enters the country?
Thank you for that question. After we got the approval and COVAX facility informed primary health and us that we'll be getting the vaccine, we had to give an exemption for the vaccines to come into the country because in an attempt to mitigate or to reduce substandard falsified medicines coming from Southeast Asia, NAFDAC overhauled its pre-shipment testing through the CRI agent, Clean Report Inspection Analyst in India. So Serum Institute in India that was going to bring in the vaccine had problem or envisaged problem with our CRIA protocol. So we wrote a letter through NPHCDA to UNICEF, an exemption letter. And that facilitated the vaccines from coming in. Once they got to Abuja, we use a track and trace or traceability technology to ensure that the barcoded vaccines, all the vaccines are barcoded. We NAFDAC scanned them. There were over 7,000 boxes, and our staff and NPHCDA staff worked about 10 hours, maybe 6 hours or 5 hours on the first day, and then another half a day, the second day. And why we are doing the track and trace is to ensure that the vaccines that are coming from India will be the same vaccine that anybody will be getting in Nigeria because of the barcoding. So once we have done the barcoding, the ones that are going to Lagos, we already know because we're going to do the scanning tomorrow, for example, for the ones that are getting into Lagos, but because they weren't scanned before they left, that small batch, they weren't scanned. So we are using track and trace to ensure that there is no infiltration in the supply chain. Nigeria is the second country in Africa to have this technology. Is GS1 technology-driven system. Then when, of course, the vaccines was got in, we had to test in the laboratory, in our lab. And our staff worked about 48 hours, almost non-sleep, to test the vaccines. We got, of course, through the dossier, we had the different tests that Serum Institute or AstraZeneca used or uses actually to do their routine quality control test. So we did that, and it was at that point that we were, the vaccine was able to be launched at a national hospital on Tuesday, I believe. Was it Tuesday or Thursday? I don't even know the dates again, but the vaccine couldn't have been launched without us making sure that the laboratory tests are satisfactory.
Schweib. Now, besides trace and track, are we also expecting other vaccines into the country? So that people don't say, we hear it's only the Oxford AstraZeneca that is the country. What other vaccines are we expecting?
Right. At this point, we're in conversations with the African Union to procure the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It's called Janssen vaccine. So that is likely to be the second type of vaccine that we're going to get approval from. Of course, that is dependent on the NAFDAC providing clearance. So we're waiting on the World Health Organization to approve this for emergency use listing. Then we expect that NAFDAC will also have to go through its own processes. So if the Johnson & Johnson vaccine clears that hurdle, that will be the second vaccine. Then we're looking at a third vaccine out of the portfolio of the different candidate vaccines. And once a decision is made, especially among all those vaccines that have requirements, temperature requirements that fit the type of cold chain equipment that we have, then it's likely that we'll pick out of those
Because somebody just asked here, with this heat so far, do you think COVID-19 will rise in numbers infected?
The heat? So it's kind of hard for you to show a direct link between the heat and the incidence of COVID-19. Those studies are still ongoing about why Africa, has lower numbers of COVID-19, and some of the postulates around temperature of our environment. But one thing is for sure, we expect that with the introduction of the vaccines, that more people will get protected, and so we likely will be able to head off any third wave, as long as we're able to vaccinate enough people to reach that critical herd immunity that will protect Nigerians from, another large rates of infections.
Okay. Our first caller tonight is calling from Jos, Gold Cup. Hello, Gold Cup.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Yes, just to find out, was the vaccine, was the trial made in Nigeria? May I know whether the trial was made? Yes, I say, may I know whether the trial has been done in Jos? In Nigeria?
Okay, doctor, maybe you respond.
No, the clinical trials for the AstraZeneca vaccine was not done in Nigeria, but I can assure you that there were people of African descent that were also part of the clinical trials where they were done. And of course, because it was not done in Nigeria, it was not, no clinical trial was done in Jos. However, just like the Director General of NAFDAC mentioned, with the rollout of the vaccine, we're also observing some of the effects of the vaccine, especially through the Med Safety app. If people have any side effects, they report on that safety app, and they will be able to also catalog some of the side effects of the drug. But beyond that, working with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, NAFDAC, and NCDC, and the National Institute for Medical Research, we're also putting together a study that will be focused on some of the effects of the drugs that might not have been reported elsewhere. So whatever reports we're going to be providing will be those specific to Nigerians, and I will believe that we'll be able to get even more information around how Nigerians interact with this vaccine.
Okay. If Dr. Agwale is up, I should be notified, so I'll go to him. But quickly, let's go to Professor Martin Emeje. But before then, let's take this caller from Port Harcourt, Collins. Hello, Collins. Okay, I hear the name is Okoli. Okoli is calling from Port Harcourt. Hello, Okoli.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Yes.
Okoli, you are on, please.
Okoni, O-K-O-N-N-Y.
Go ahead, please.
Okoni Selemi. Okoni, yes.
Okay, we get you. Just go ahead with your issue.
Okay, sir. Please, I want to speak on this vaccine. Yes, please.
Just go ahead, please. We are hearing you.
Okay, please. This vaccine in question. Yes, we are all Christians in a way. As a Christian now, please, don't you believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross of Calvary for all of us? Yes. Jesus Christ died on the cross of Calvary for all of us as individuals and as his creation.
Okay, we are discussing vaccines here. Sorry, we need to discontinue with that call, please. Quickly, Professor Emeje, I want to take 2 tweets to you, and you quickly react to them. Are there any known short-term or long-term side effects? And the second question is, are children under 6 allowed to take the vaccine?
Okay, those questions are for me. It gives me an opportunity to say that, look, the truth is any group of people, any race or geographical enclave of people that did not participate in clinical studies of a drug are not supposed to be taking the drugs. So this kind of question are questions that can be answered when in the process of drug development, your group participated in clinical trials. That's the essence of clinical trial. There are so many advantages of clinical trial. Now, but specifically on this, any information we give is based on the information provided by the company and based on studies that have been carried out in other places. Now, if you look at their MSDS, they said anyone who is less than 12 years, for example, for that of Pfizer, that it should not be on the vaccine. They have already given the minimum number of years that someone should be before, or the condition that one should be. Just as is similar to all drugs, and these things are derived during clinical evaluation. Now, in terms of side effects, vaccines are generally safe because the technology for vaccine is not new, except for the most recent, which is the mRNA technology. Otherwise, the most available technology for vaccine production, which is either by inactivation or attenuation, is such that what happens are just pains or response in terms of a fever and all of minor side effects that are associated with the use of vaccines. Those are the kind of side effects that we expect from the vaccines that are coming into the public use right now. But that is not to take away what we call rare side effects, because there are idiosyncrasies that may arise as a result of use of any drug product, including vaccine. So maybe in a population of 1:100 or 1:500,000, you can have cases of someone getting into anaphylactic shock or some untoward effect, including death. And it is not particular to vaccine. Any drug under development, this can happen. In fact, even after development and the drug is in use, it can equally cause problem. In fact, even you, after taking a particular drug for a long time, it is still possible that for one reason or the other, which science is always grabbing with, trying to understand, you can have those side effects.
Thanks, Shwa. Here, Agu has been on the call from Port Harcourt. Hello, Agu.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
My name is Agu Chukwukole from Port Harcourt.
Go ahead.
The population of Nigeria is about 200 million. With the quantity assigned to Nigeria, when do you think that every Nigerian will be vaccinated? The vaccines are transported from the manufacturing base to Nigeria and distributed from one end to another in Nigeria. How is the efficacy guaranteed to the final consumer? The vaccines are temperature based. Is the optimal temperature maintained to the final consumer? Finally, Nigerians can travel to India and China to import lower quality drugs. How can fake vaccines be detected by consumers? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Agu. I will allow you and the DG NAFDA to respond to Agu's reaction. Beginning with you.
Yeah, right. You talked about the quantities of vaccines that are coming to Nigeria. The first 4 million doses of the Astrogenic vaccine, again, is just part of a larger consignment from COVAX. So COVAX is looking to provide up to 84 million doses to Nigeria, but apart from that, we're also in conversations with the African Union to get additional doses. So this is just the first consignment. Of course, you know there are challenges with supply globally, so these vaccines will come in batches. But the commitment of the Presidential Task Force is to ensure that all eligible Nigerians, that is Nigerians 18 years and above, get the vaccine. This is why we have a plan to vaccinate Nigerians over the course of 2 years. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. We've sort of categorized the different people who will get the vaccines into different phases, right? So we have 4 different phases, starting with the frontline health workers and first responders. Then we have in the second phase, we'll be looking at the elderly people. In the third phase, we'll be looking at people who have underlying disease. And then in the fourth phase, the rest of the general population. All of this is to prioritize those people who get the vaccine, making sure as the vaccines come into the country, those people who need it the most will actually get the vaccine. Then he asked about the issues of cold chain. So you're absolutely right, Agu. There's the supply chain, the cold chain system, from where the vaccines are manufactured all the way to when it gets to your arm. The vaccines are kept in a temperature between +2 and +8. So right now, the vaccines were brought to the National Strategic Cold Store in Abuja. And then from the cold store, they are kept in cold boxes. These cold boxes are specially fitted cold boxes, just like the kind of coolers that you have, right, that keeps food warm. We also have those that keep the vaccines cold. But in addition to that, we have what we call ice packs, so frozen ice packs that make sure that the vaccines are kept at that temperature. These are used to transport all the way to the States and kept in another set of cold stores within the states. From the states to the local government, all of the transportation that takes place is in that kind of environment. But from one cold box to what we call a vaccine carrier, smaller containers are used to transport the vaccines all the way to where people live, whether it is in the health facility or in the riverine areas. The most important work of the health worker is to make sure that the vaccines are kept in that temperature. And that is something that we've done for several decades, as a matter of fact. This is one of the reasons why we're able to eradicate the wild polio virus, because we're able to keep the vaccines against the virus at the right temperature. That is exactly what we're going to be doing with the COVID-19 vaccines, making sure that from the national level all the way to where they are administered, whether it's in a riverine community, whether it's in a desert community in the most remote parts of northern Nigeria, mountainous areas, you'll be having teams going to make sure that we're able to deliver these vaccines safely and then making sure that they are potent.
Thank you so much. I hear Dr. Agwale is up, but before then, there's this caller from Lagos. Glad I hear. Hello, Glad. The caller has dropped. And Dr. Agwale, we lost signals with you, but quickly, let me ask you this question through this angle. Misinformation and false claims threatens to undermine the success of vaccines and put people's lives at risk. How do you react to this?
I think that people should have confidence in the vaccines that we have, like the DG MPCTA has said. I mean, Nigeria has one of the best distribution platforms that we have all over the world. To answer your question, Nigerians should have confidence that the truth is that when you make a vaccine, if you look at the development pipelines from the discovery to licensure, the preclinical testing, which is in animals, when you have your concept, you test it in animals, it is peer reviewed. And before you do phase 1 clinical trials, you do clinical trials in humans, your protocol must be submitted to the regulatory authority for approval. Here in the US, you submit to FDA. FDA will look at the data that you generated in animal models, whether, the safety data and all of that, and then give you approval to do what we call phase 1 trials in people. And then phase 1, you are recruiting few people because you want to see whether the safety that you got in humans will be replicated, in animals will be replicated in humans. So once that safety is approved, then you now move to the phase 2 trials, and then you move to phase 3 trials. And in phase 3 trials, you are looking at expanded safety studies, and then whether the product is protective. And if it is protective, you submit your data to the regulatory authority. The regulatory authorities will look at the data and then give you approval. In this case, as far as COVID is concerned, is what we call the emergency use authorization. Because it's an emergency, this is an emergency, and then they give you that approval, then you can now implement that product, and then you do the post surveillance. So what, in addition to the safety that NAFDAC, that I was discussing with her before this program, the truth is that before that happens, once they are doing the safety studies, if it is possible, we have to include the immunogenicity. It's a very simple and easy test to do.
We lost signal there again. Well, a caller from Maiduguri, Salmata, is on. Hello, Salmata. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
How are you?
Doing good. Go ahead, please.
I want to congratulate Dr. Faisal Shah for the administration of COVID vaccine in Nigeria. Congratulations, sir.
Go ahead.
I say I want to congratulate Dr.
We have
Faisal
heard you.
Shah.
Just make your point. Make your point, please.
Congratulations, sir. COVID vaccine is set. We are ready to receive. We are going to start on 12th of this month. So congratulations, sir.
Thank you. Let's take Dr. John Agbide now before we go to DG NAFDAC. Take the stories before then. Dr. Agbide, if I'm going to take vaccination, what should I do before going for it?
Good question. You should think of the availability and which of the criteria that you actually belong. But coming to a more serious point, before I get vaccinated, I would want to ensure that my body natural defense system is up and running. That is what we call immunomodulation. And because with that, when the vaccine gets in, then it will escalate the level of antibody production or the cytotoxic T cells, response that will give me the buoyant immunity. How do I do this? There are various micronutrients that we've come to know to be immune supporting. Then through my lifestyle, because this immunity is not only about micronutrients. Take, for example, sleep. That is the lifestyle. It's also very important. You see, if I'm overstressed, I don't sleep well, I don't eat well, and then spiritually I'm not clean. You see, the vaccine will not work in me, for me, as much as it should have. With the micronutrient support, and the immune system is ready, to be kicked and propelled by the vaccine, I will get a much, much better response. And this is my advice to all Nigerians. Let's look at the various ways of keeping our innate immune system, our natural immune system up and running. As I've said, lifestyle, sleeping well, taking micronutrients, then the vitamin D, which is also very important amongst the micronutrients. We talk about exposure to sunlight, and then all these other things, vitamin C. I make sure that I'm taking this. Honestly, a friend of mine just visited me some few days ago. And in the morning, when he saw me go through my routines, this is routines in terms of, micronutrients, he was really amazed. The vitamin D was there, C was there, quercetin was there, CoQ10 was there, zinc was there, and then you mentioned them. So I feel really, buoyant. And like we're all guilty tonight, we're supposed to be in bed in good time, because there is what we call the melatonin cycle. I bet you we have actually missed much of the cycle now. Melatonin is very, very important and very key. Key amongst the micronutrients I take includes also melatonin. It used to be known as the hormone of, sleep, but today we've come to know beyond that. Melatonin is involved in several different other, reactions, biochemical reactions in the body. Kill, amongst which means immunomodulation too, anti-inflammatory, and it also detoxifies the body and rejuvenates, on body tissues. So that is really very important. Talking about melatonin, just give me a minute. We know that the source or the host for the SARS-CoV-2 virus or the coronavirus is the bat. And studies have now shown that the bat is the animal that has the highest amount of melatonin in its own body. And that's why it is able to actually harbor the virus without coming down with the disease. So I'll do the non-pharmaceutical interventions as we've been preached over. I will also take the vaccine if it comes. And then I will also make sure that I properly immunomodulate my body with, micronutrients.
Thank you so much. We'll take the next line of reports. When we return, we'll begin with the DG NAFDAC. And the next report is coming from Maiduguri.
Even before the first case of COVID-19 was recorded in Borno State, barely 51 days after the country declared an outbreak of the disease, Borno State government had been up and doing, putting measures in place in case of any eventuality, having recorded a series of cases of COVID-19 with many treated and discharged, while several others died of the virus. Borno State government has not relented in its quest to combat the disease. With the arrival of Oxford Astrogenic COVID-19 vaccines into the country, Borno State government says it is well prepared for the vaccination rollout to target population.
We have enough cold room, enough refrigerator to really store the vaccines. We are 100% committed. Even today, we are ready.
Already, training is ongoing for health workers across the 27 local government areas to ensure efficient and effective vaccination, as well as update their skills in handling, storage, and administration of the COVID-19 vaccines.
The first phase is for the health workers only. The second phase, then we take care of some of the vulnerables, aged, and all that. Those who miss their doses, in these groups, there are some who not receive at that place. So we try to give them all to ensure that all eligible receive this vaccine.
We already have a dedicated room for it. We have the workforce, the nurses who administer this vaccine. We have the health record who keep record of the people and the doses that you are administering. And of course, we have the other supporting staff as required.
They further assured that the